What you're doing when you make a switch from the meta builds to the two-way forward is that you're sacrificing speed and deking for a better playstyle. Every build now has access to gold elite edges. Following the new season start in Season 6, every single class now has a 6th trait to their zone abilities. Are these changes able to challenge the current meta in the game? The meta being Playmaker Center with 6'1", 160 gold elite edges, high speed, excel, and agility, with the PMD at both wing and defense. When you go through some of these builds, like the power forward for one, and this also relates to defensive defenseman, enforcer, right? Like anything that's big, there's not really a reason to put on elite edges, right? Because the build is meant to be big, and in this game, being big doesn't really help you because it's very easy to hit him. It's very easy to knock him off the puck. It's not hard at all. The only benefit to using these bigger builds would be obviously to put on gold truculence, right? Now, you're not going to use that in 6s and leagues because that's banned. It's a banned trait. So overall, you could try to use gold elite edges, but it just doesn't make sense because when you compare the play style and also just the speed, excel, and everything else, it's just a bit too slow compared to the meta builds, obviously. The sniper, the reason you would put on the sniper is so that you could shoot from distance to score, right? Gold 1T. People use that from far out. And they combine it, I would say, with higher shot accuracy and power to combo with the gold trait. I think the gold trait itself is what allows them to score. Anything shorter, that's when you would go with the PMD, because with the silver traits, you're not going to be able to shoot from a distance. You're not going to score. Obviously, close quarters, everything uptight. And make it snappy, it can be shot from afar, but it being a silver trait, silver traits do not go in typically from distance, especially when you combine it with lower shooting. The reason you go with a lower shot is so that you can max out your speed. Speed is the meta in this game. To put on sniper and try to have gold elite edges on for that doesn't really make sense, because if you weren't going to try to score from a distance or have a consistent shot that's shot from afar, then no reason to rock gold elite edges and try to put on a silver trait to think that you're still going to score from afar. You're not. You're just simply not. People use snipers so that they can have gold 1T from afar. Same thing with the offensive defenseman. I know before and back in Season 2 when they made that change, they had the height and weight to be lessened, right? So that you could have basically the same speed and excel that the meta builds currently have. Obviously, you have to lower your height in order to do so. The reason you would go with this build was, again, to have gold 1T with pretty much the same defense as the playmaker, which is a lot better than the sniper. So that was that combo that opened up. I didn't see people make the change. I think they kept with the sniper because they liked the high shooting combined with obviously having gold 1T. So you're not going to sub this out to try to have elite edges as well, because it doesn't compete with the PMD in terms of the other stat values. Grinder 2, it's not as good as what could be the two-way forward, I guess. So you're not really going to see grinders rocking gold elite edges. The only class that I think could pose a challenge to the current meta would be the two-way forward. And I've made 3 two-way forward builds. First one being a defensive build. I lessened the height so that I can get 94 speed. That's the only advantage that I think you could really try to mix in, because I think having a 6'2" is a tad bit too slow unless you want to rock steady strides. This would be the only change that I would think that you can make if you were going to try to have a really fast build that's on par with the PMD. The playstyle category wins with the two-way forward. Now, the puck control doesn't. I know a lot of people that use the meta builds rock, I think, a pretty high puck control rating, like 90 puck control. You're not going to sacrifice that too much here. If you do that, you're going to wind up being, I think, a tad bit too low with your endurance. Especially if you jump up a lot as a defenseman, it's not going to benefit you too much to have too low of your endurance. But I guess you could try this and maybe see if that is a switch that you'd want to make. Other than that, the deking actually does take a hit compared to the PMD, because you can actually get pretty much, I think, close to 90 with your PMD for your deking. So I think the advantage goes to the PMD in terms of that. And if you're sacrificing what is a benefit to controlling the puck as a PMD, you're not really going to see people make that switch. So the only advantage would be the playstyle. Keep that in mind here as we keep going through these. Now, the center, I think, could potentially pose a threat to the playmaker because, again, you have a way better playstyle category. Every single value is a lot higher. The only difference here is you have lower deking. My current playmaker has 82 deking, so it's not that far off. I'm not going to go, obviously, too far here. You really can't even adjust it to try to get one more point into it, right? So 80 is your deking stat. That does take a hit. The playstyle category is better, but you're going to be slower and your puck control is going to be less as well. That could be a problem. It is something to try out. Two-way forward on wing does have potential because pretty much everything is almost the same. Only if you go with a low height, right? Obviously, you know, 93 speed excel you can get with a 6'2 power forward. That's something you could try at wing if you want. You have pretty much the same deking if you lower your face-off. The playstyle category is better than the PMD. So this could be a potential switch, I think. Here's what it boils down to, though. It is clear that the two-way forward has a playstyle advantage. The playstyle is the best out of any class that we've seen, right? What you're doing when you make a switch from the meta builds to the two-way forward is that you're sacrificing speed and deking for a better playstyle. Okay, the thing is, if you're already dominant the playstyle that you currently have with either the Playmaker or PMD, then there's zero reason for you to make a switch for less speed and less capabilities of deking just to have a better value to your playstyle. It's only if you're getting beat by the meta builds while using a meta build that maybe you could consider making a switch to the two-way forward to try that out, to have higher values in the playstyle than the current meta builds. That is the only change that I think can take place where a class like this could potentially challenge the meta. You're willing to sacrifice speed and deking for a better playstyle. That is it. But if you're dominant with what you currently have, with the playstyle that you have, right? These values are obviously less. That is it. Like, if you're already dominant with it, then you're not going to make the switches to 2-way forward. It makes absolutely no sense. You're sacrificing speed for more playstyle in which you're already dominant in that area. It just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't add up. So that is completely up to you. That is up to you and how you want to manage that. But I don't think any other class really benefits with it doesn't challenge the meta by it having gold elite edges now as a 6th trait that can be chosen. If you have the Playmaker, right, you can always change the Big Tipper, but that doesn't make sense because if you play again, this only applies to league gameplay and just what the meta is currently in 6s. Why everybody is using gold elite edges, PMD, and Playmaker is that obviously it's 4 gold elite edges. By this update, it's clear that EA obviously understands that gold elite edges is the meta in this game. It is the best trait in the game. If every single class has access to it now, they know obviously that people are using it. A hot take, considering now every single build has gold elite edges. Hot take that I have is that in the NHL 25, gold elite edges will be no more. It will be taken away from the game, which means that every class will then be left with still 5 traits that we started with. So that could be an interesting change. What do you guys think? You guys think that they're going to get rid of gold elite edges in NHL 25? If they do that, that would definitely change the meta because guess what? Elite edges is no more. I think they actually should do that if they want to branch out the variety of how people are designing their builds because everybody's all one way right now. When you talk about high level 6s competition, and even in 3s, you can even argue this too. The best of the best are using Playmaker and PMD. That is it. Those are the only 2 builds that are relevant in this game at a very high level. If you take elite edges out, it'd be very interesting to see what the reaction of the community would be in terms of builds. And I think they should do that if they really want to change the meta, if they want to get people to change the way they're playing. So be sure to let me know in the comments what you think about elite edges now being available to all builds, and the idea that they might take it out in NHL 25 to hopefully branch out the variety of builds that people will use. I would be very interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are on both those things, right? So I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys like this video, be sure hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit that bell as well so you guys know when I'm posting more videos. Now we'll catch you guys next time.